Hey Thinksters! In today's video I want to show you how to write a string into a file in a single line of code. So this is more a fun video, but I think it's also useful because if you want to write something into if you want to write a string, just you want to flush a string into a file, do some logging or so, then at least I am always pissed off that I have to like look up the commands and do this all this opening and closing and file IO stuff. And actually there are a few very simple ways of accomplishing this, and I think so by recommending them to you, I think you will become a better coder, you will become more productive. So let's dive right into the 4 ways of writing a file into writing a string into a file in a single line of code. So this is our requirement. We only want to use a single line of code. Okay, so the first method is we use write. So we use the with statement. The with statement, it just ensures that there are no side effects. So after the with statement ends or terminates, all files will be closed. So you don't have to ensure that the file is closed. And then you open the file. So you call the function open. You pass the file as an argument. Now you need to define the mode of writing it. So if you use the mode A, then it will just append the file, the contents, like the string. You want to write this string hi into the file hello.txt, and if you use A, if you pass A as a parameter, then you will just append the string to the file. So if the file already has content, you will just append it and not overwrite it. And you open it as the file object f, and then you simply call f.write hi. And now this is, so usually the with statement comes in this form. So you have all the indentation, all the lines that are indented, that have some indentation in it. So basically in this block, this whole block is you can work with the file object f, but after this block closes, so for example, if you would write something here, if you would proceed here, you cannot even access the file object f because it is not visible anymore. Okay, so but of course you can also, like this would be the 2-line solution, but you can also do this in a single line. So you can just, if you have just one statement, then you can usually also write this indented block into a single line of code. So this would be the first one-liner method to write a string into a file. So you open the file, you open it as a file object f, and then you simply write as f.write. This is by many, this is considered the most Pythonic way of writing stuff into a file. So if you execute it, so I just run it, and now I have to open the file so that you can see that the content is really in the file. Okay, so this is my file, and I've already written it many times just for writing this blog article. Okay, so you see the content is in the file. Let's get rid of everything. If you run it again, we run it and we open the file. This is the file. Yes, this is a file hello.txt, and now you see the content is hello world. Okay, so this works. Let's get into the next way, which I like even more. So the second way is to use the print function, and this many Python coders don't know. Yeah, so you can print stuff. So we want to print hello world, but we don't want to use the standard output as the output. We want to use a file as the output, and then we simply pass the file. So we need to open the file. So the open function just creates it does nothing but create a file, and in a certain reading or writing mode, which is now appending mode, and we simply write the content hello world into the file. So if you run this code snippet, you would expect that we have now just appended 2 times hello world to our file. So we execute this, we don't get any output. Yeah, so there's no output because we just wrote content into a file. Now we need to reload the file, and you see, okay, it contains 3 times the term hello world. So up to now everything works fine. We have 2 methods. This second method is even shorter, it's more concise than the first method. So this one is my preferred way. Yeah, you just use a print function as you are used to it, and you print into a file object. Very concise way. But of course, this has a disadvantage that you cannot you should close it later. Okay, so you can basically you have opened the file here, so you cannot even close it because you have no reference to it. And then again, this won't be a big problem basically. So I often write into files and don't close them if I know what I'm doing. So if I have a short script and I know that I will not have many threads writing in parallel to two different files and so on, then I just go with something like this. Okay, so I create it on the fly, I write into the file, and then I just and then of course there is no reference to this object anymore, yeah. So because you simply pass it to the print function, so in memory it will be loose. The file object will exist in memory, but it will not be referenced to. So therefore the reference counter of this object is 0, and the Python garbage collector will just remove the file from memory automatically. So you don't even have to do anything about this. So this is I think a Pythonic way of doing it, and it's perfectly valid to do. Okay, the second way is to simply create a file object open. You open the file object in the append mode. Then you have this semicolon notation. This is also quite useful to write Python one-liners. So our goal was to write into a file in a single line of code, and we can do this by just cramming three statements into a single line of code using the semicolon operator. So just for comprehensibility, I wanted to include this because it's also quite concise, right? So you open the file, you assign the result, the file object to the name f, and of course now you can modify this file object and even close it like here. And so this will produce exactly the same, have exactly the same effects. And now, of course, if you are a bit more lazy with the file closing, you can also do the following. You can open the file in append mode and simply write hi into the file. And now, of course, you haven't closed the file, and you have no object, you have no file object. Basically, you just create the object on the fly, you don't assign it to a variable name, so therefore there's no reference to this file, so you cannot close it later. Okay, so because the write function doesn't return a file object or so you cannot close it, you cannot call close like here because the write function doesn't return the file object, it just returns none, nothing. So therefore, I mean, this is the shortest way of doing it, and oftentimes it's perfectly valid to do this actually, yeah. So because the garbage collector will close the file automatically, so it will automatically remove the file object, and Python will automatically close the file objects that are not used anymore. So it's perfectly valid to do this. I mean, it has a few disadvantages, like if you open the file and you write to the file, often the contents will not be written immediately into the file. It may take some time until Python flushes it out. But I mean, if you don't access the file before the script terminates, then there is no problem, because before the script terminates, it has written the contents into the file for sure. So, and also, I mean, if you don't access the file while the program runs, there's no problem with this approach. You don't have to close the file, so don't believe people who are telling you this. So if you are sure that you just run the code, and after the code has terminated, you want to do something with the file. You want to open the file, see the file, and so on. And you don't write multiple times in many threads into the same file object or so. Then there's no problem of opening the file and don't closing it, because Python will close it automatically. Okay, so these are the 4 ways. So you have seen 4 one-liners to open and close a file. So the shortest one is just to open it and use and call write on the new file object. And an elegant one I found is the print function. You just print the content you want to print, but as an output you use the file specifier. And then of course you have to create a file in which you want to write. And then of course the most safe way of doing it is like the open statement that automatically closes the file after usage, or even this way where you close the file by using these 3 statements. Okay, thanks for listening to this video and see you in the next one. Bye.